We're still digging out of an economic collapse. And what we proposed is going to work. To state the obvious, we have work to do. But look, let's keep our eye on the ball. I know you all know this, but it's worth repeating.
Trouble is coming.
Meantime, almost exactly 24 hours ago, we got new CPI data from the Labor Department, and it showed consumer prices accelerating at the fastest pace in well over a decade.
Congressional Democrats have announced they plan to ram through enormous tax increases that will damage both the economy and the stock market.
Yes, housing prices nationwide are rising, some even skyrocketing. But right now, the median price of a home is currently at the highest level in history at around $353,000.
Look at this briefly. The national average for a gallon of gas is now $2.87. It has gone up, about 60-odd cents in a month? And natural gas prices are way up as well.
That inflation was coming based on this wasteful spending by Joe Biden and the Democrats, because that's their solution. Their solution is to continue to throw money to the problem. And what we've seen, in fact, is that you've seen inflation going up. What happens? Buying power of the American people goes down.
And then on top of that, I think what's really on watch in our work is just inflation risk. And I'm sure you've seen this, we've all been talking about it, but if you just look at the number of citations of cost pressure during this earnings season, just over the last few weeks, it's through the roof. We've seen this parabolic spike in the number of mentions of inflation, be it cost pressure, wage inflation, raw materials costs. We're seeing supply chain disruptions still.
The stock market is still assuming that the damage the Biden administration and the Federal Reserve is beginning to inflict on the recovering economy will be limited. In coming months, that happy assumption will be exploded.
With these kind of price increases, for every $1 million of liquid assets, a person is $50,000 worse off than they were a year ago.
But if this continues, if used car sales went up 10%, or the prices went up 10% in a month, if that continues for a couple months, that's a real pinch. And we're just seeing, gas prices are now up higher than they've been in a long time, too. So the more of these prices get passed along to consumers, if that continues into the fall, the White House is going to have a serious problem on their hands. Inflation is a real tricky thing to deal with. There's not a law you can pass or something you can introduce that'll snuff it out. It's a really difficult thing. It involves the Federal Reserve. It's really hard to do when you're trying to get the economy going again. So a month of this, maybe a month or two of this, it'll be fine. But if it continues, it's a real political nightmare for the White House.
The Fed is on its way to firing up an inflation of a size not seen since the 1970s. Unhappy experience shows that inflation, once it gains momentum, is difficult to curb. Interest rates will rise.
Democrats have taken this debt level. Now we'll hit $30 trillion. Look at interest rates. They're at 1.65 today? That means 1 out of every $7 of federal revenue now go to interest expense. It's $500 billion a year just in interest expense. Doesn't help Social Security. Doesn't help our military, defend it, be able to create a military. Doesn't help Social Security, Medicare, any of these things.
That leaves the Fed to do the heavy lifting, conjuring up money out of thin air on a scale never seen in peacetime, a surefire inflation formula. Compounding this mess are those upcoming tax increases on capital gains, businesses, higher incomes, gasoline, car mileage, energy, and inheritances. These taxes will be especially damaging to small enterprises.
Also partly because of skyrocketing prices on materials as well. Just this month, the price per 1,000 board feet of lumber jumped to an all-time high of $1,104, a jaw-dropping 208% increase from last year.
The Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders wealth confiscation scheme may also emerge. And here we get to something absolutely astonishing. Biden's projections of future economic growth are pitifully small. He's forecasting an era of economic stagnation. The budget is also noteworthy, not for a series of temporary measures, but rather a permanent spending binge for new entitlement programs.
Think about their gas is up, way up.
This is what impacts every single kitchen table in America. It's a food prices going up by 2.2%, gas prices 56% up. So, Larry, it just shows that the Biden economics is not working for America. It's why under the Trump administration, we understood very clearly that you needed deregulation, lower taxes, and ensure that more investment comes into the United States so that more jobs can be created, and at the same time, growing our GDP.
We were energy independent. Very shortly, we will no longer be energy independent. Gas prices are going up at a far more rapid rate than anybody's seen in a long time. When you see gas prices going up, and they'll be going up by $1, $2, $3, if you look at that, and that's, it's bigger than a tax increase. To the consumer, you get $1 increase in gasoline, that's bigger than a tax hike.
So I can't tell you how long it'll last, but I will tell you if policies don't change.
Bacon, bananas, bread, coffee, etc. Gasoline prices, as Mercy said, gasoline prices are up 56%. So inflation is on the rise, and voters are blaming Biden.
President Biden has formally proposed a $6 trillion budget for the next fiscal year, a level of spending that proportionately exceeds anything before, except in the midst of World War II.
The Biden solution to this problem is to spend trillions more, right? It's not just the trillions that they've already spent on a bipartisan, a totally partisan vote on so-called COVID relief. There's also two other huge spending bills that he relayed at the quasi-State of the Union address that they want to get passed, trillions more.
I asked the White House what they're going to do about it, and of course, crickets, nothing.
Again, no policy change, no change in the result.
So speaking of policy, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says inflation will be higher than the Biden administration did estimate.
Who do you blame for this sharp, sudden rise in energy prices?
Well, it's Joe Biden.
We're still digging out of an economic collapse, to state the obvious, we have work to do.